fancy, right? Hi, welcome back to Braves Talk on the YouTube channel. I know it's been um, a couple of weeks and months since there's been dedicated Braves Talk on the channel, but we're back. So this is going to go up hopefully this weekend, which right now it is January 3rd. So hopefully I can get it out on the Sunday. So I really want to get it out on January 5th. And we're going to talk about what the Braves, more accurately, haven't done this offseason and my particular frustrations with the team. Now, I do want to preface before we get into anything that it is the 1st of January and maybe offices don't open up until Monday or really don't open up. People don't come back in until Monday, and I understand that. But also, as a caveat to that, we have had several moves on this very day. Hae-Sung Kim has gone to the Dodgers. Not Ha-Sung Kim, Hae-Sung Kim out of Korea. He leaves the KBO to join the Los Angeles Dodgers as if they didn't need any more help. And Charlie Morton, very notably, has signed with the Baltimore Orioles, strangely enough, because one of the main points of him signing with Atlanta back in 2021 was that he didn't want to leave his home in Florida. But Maryland's pretty far away from Florida, I'd say. But also Charlie Morton was kind of a huge target for the Braves. So I guess that kind of transitions us into it perfectly. The Braves are really pivoting for a starter. In fact, I would be deathly shocked if they didn't add some sort of veteran starter. Hey, buddy. I really thought that Charlie Morton was going to be the move. I thought that Charlie coming back for $10 million was kind of set in stone. Now, granted, he didn't sign for $10 million with Baltimore, and the starting pitching market has been quite absurd. He signed for $15 million. But you know what? I think I would still make that payment for Charlie Morton because he has been so solid, as much as maybe people don't like Charlie Morton. He's been incredibly solid as a veteran 4th, 5th starter for the last 3 years. And dude won a World Series. Pay him for it. I mean, basically, the Braves signed him to a 4-year deal for as long as he pitched for the Braves. And I was really expecting him to retire in Atlanta. But with Charlie Morton coming off the board, along with several other free agent targets that I really thought the Braves were going to go to, one including Nathan Eovaldi, who came back to Texas, I really thought they were going to make a run at Nathan Eovaldi. And for the contract that he signed, I don't think it was quite ridiculous. Walker Buehler also came off the board, which felt very Bravesy, a former top prospect guy with some real pedigree. Hasn't pitched to his standards in the past couple years, has been very injured. Sorry about the noise down there. But hasn't pitched to his standard and has been injured. I really felt like the Braves would make a go at him, but he's going to be in Boston again for a pretty respectable contract that I thought the Braves could, go for a one-year deal. That doesn't sound bad to me. There's no such thing as a bad one-year deal. What are you doing down there? So that's a couple of starters that I really thought the Braves were going to make a go at. Still out there, Nick Pivetta really feels Bravesy. He is not a guy that's going to shock you or blow you away, but he's a 5th starter, and he's a guy who eats up innings. Also in the vein of eating up innings is Kyle Gibson, spent last year with the St. Louis Cardinals, which I don't like Kyle Gibson. I would much rather prefer a Nick Pivetta over Kyle Gibson. I think Kyle Gibson's ceiling is pretty set as it is. With Nick Pivetta, maybe there's a little bit more enticing stuff there. Again, these aren't guys that are going to blow you away. These aren't guys that are going to make marquee standings in the rotation, but it is notable. Someone that I really thought the Braves would go after by now is Jordan Montgomery, because you would think that the Arizona Diamondbacks, well, you don't think, they are actively shopping Montgomery's contract to get him off the team, as ownership and Montgomery are not on the same page. But we've heard no news on it. Having Jordan Montgomery in this rotation, adding another lefty after losing Max Fried, will be absolutely massive, because for me, I love having several lefties in your rotation, especially with the powerhouses of the NL starting to stack up with the Phillies and the Dodgers all being very left-handed dominant. Chris Sale being the only lefty in your rotation is kind of concerning. So now I want to take a look at what the Braves actually have in the rotation. I already knocked down some free agents that I thought they were going to go after, and some that are still out there that are pretty interesting. But let's look at what the Braves have and why a 5th starter or a starter in general is pretty imperative. You got Chris Sale, Spencer Schwellenbach, and Ronaldo Lopez. Mind you, the opening day 2025. Let me clarify. Opening day 2025. Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach are your three locks. That's it. Spencer Strider will eventually rejoin the rotation, but as the front office stated early in the offseason, both Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider are not going to be ready for opening day. So having 3 men in your rotation to start the season, that's kind of scary, especially 3 guys who are going to have big question marks going into next season. Chris Sale, best season he has had in 5 years or something or the other. Phenomenal season, won the Cy Young, the 99th good percentile outcome you could have gotten from a season for Chris Sale. That being said, it's the most innings he has thrown in X amount of years. He does have another healthy offseason for him, but at his age, who knows what's going to happen. I think the arm is still young, per se, because he hasn't had as much of a miles and tax on his arm as other veterans his age would have. But it is still something to note, and I don't think we're going to get nearly to the dominance that Chris Sale was at last year. So temper the expectations there. Spencer Schwellenbach, rookie sensation. I love Schwelly. I don't know if he can go into a sophomore season and do the same exact thing. Everyone goes through a sophomore slump at some point. Although his metrics are very exciting, I still think he's going to be good, but I don't know if he's going to be the strong 2 in your rotation that you need. And then Ronaldo Lopez, whose metrics were still a bit funky. There was some innings things with him. He got injured a good bit throughout the year with some elbow inflammation and some shoulder inflammation. That was pretty concerning. But again, you're looking at Ronaldo Lopez as icing on the cake for his contract because you're getting a bona fide starter for a reliever, a good reliever contract. And he's a guy that you want to slot in the 4 or the 5. So who's going to be in that 4 or 5 slot? Because I would assume that 4 spot is going to belong to your free agent or your trade acquisition if the Braves make it, which they have not made it yet. So the Braves haven't acquired any depth either. The only rotational depth that they could have acquired this offseason was Griffin Canning, but then they DFA'd him, to which he was picked up by the New York Mets. So let's look at the internal options down in Gwinnett. A.J. Smith-Shawver, Hurston Waldrop, Bryce Elder, Ian Anderson, Alan Winans, and Darius Vines. 6 pitchers that you really feel like could make a spot in that rotation. And already on the big league roster is Grant Holmes, who made a number of starts last season. It was actually pretty good. So all of that depth down there we have seen at the big league level once before. Hurston Waldrop and A.J. Smith-Shawver are obviously your highest ceiling guys down there. I think A.J. Smith-Shawver is definitely more on a path and could actually start in the rotation come opening day 2025 than any of the rest of the guys. Hurston Waldrop just isn't ready yet. I'm fine with him staying in the minor leagues for another year. I really don't want them to rush them. Again, a Kyle Wright situation would be really damning to both of their developments. But I think A.J. Smith-Shawver might be ready to take that next leap up, which A.J. Smith-Shawver, it's just a matter of can he grab the brass ring or not, which last year he might have, but he wasn't really given the opportunity because of his oblique. He also wasn't fantastic in the minors last year, which gives me a little bit of worry. But with A.J. Smith-Shawver, I think a lot of people have to give him a little bit of pause and a little bit of a chance. Because this is a kid who didn't start pitching until he was in high school. With Hurston Waldrop, like I said, I want him down in the minors. Now with the other 3 that I would say are, on the precipice of Darius Vines and Ian Anderson and Bryce Elder, those 3 guys are very interesting. Bryce Elder is not a major league starter at this point. Listen, 2023 was magical for Bryce, but he is big league depth at best. I've never loved his profile. I mean, he's good when he has the breaking pitch and he stays out of the strike zone, because anytime he's in the strike zone, he's not getting whiffs, he's getting hammered. That's just the type of pitcher he is. Darius Vines is the same way, but a little bit lower on the skill level, so I'm not expecting a lot out of him. A wild card is Ian Anderson, because of course we haven't seen Ian since 2022 because he pitched so poorly in the 2022 season that he was optioned. And then of course he went through Tommy John, and then he had another issue that sidelined him even further. And last year, he was very pedestrian in Gwinnett. But Ian is a top prospect guy, and he's still relatively young, still about 26 years old. And I think he might have some stuff left in the tank because, what we saw from Ian is very solid. 5 inning, 6 inning guy that can get you through, give you a little bit of a heart attack, but definitely get you through 5 or 6 innings. If he gets that promotion, he can't go back down. He's out of options. So if he does go back down, then he has to go through waivers. And I don't know if the Braves look that highly on him to give him that shot. You are going to need more than 5 starting pitchers in a season. That is an absolute definite. I think the Braves used 14 different guys to start a game last year. If the Braves went to opening day with a rotation of Chris Sale, Spencer Schwellenbach, Ronaldo Lopez, AJ Smith-Shawver, and as well as Grant Holmes, I would be very upset, but I think it could work. I'd be upset because, well, this is the third season, off-season, where the Braves have said that payroll's going to go up, and they never make that big splash. I understand the unwillingness to go into the free agent market, especially with starting pitchers, because they can be so volatile. You have one injury and a guy's career is just ruined. It's just the way pitching is now. It's very, very scary to deal with. The contract that Max Fried has right now, I don't think any other team wanted to sign that other than the New York Yankees. It's a very difficult contract to sign for a guy who's had his injury troubles in the past and is on the wrong side of 30, frankly, as much as I love Max. But again, we're in the third offseason where the Braves say that they have this money and they have not spent it yet. Not spending it on a starting pitcher isn't what I'm griping about. But constantly saying that you have this payroll means that you can go out and shed a little bit of contract and payroll to go pick up somebody, maybe who you think is on the up and up out there, a Jordan Montgomery, and eat some of his salary to get him out of Arizona. I think Jordan Montgomery could be pretty serviceable as a 3 or a 4. Obviously, last year was very, very bad for him, but that was because Scott Boras really mismanaged his entire clientele profile and made them start in late February, which for pitchers just is not feasible. So I really do like the move to go get Jordan Montgomery. I think he makes a lot of sense, but again, it's just up to the Braves to make that move, and there are a bit of strings attached to Jordan Montgomery. Now, I bring up the money to transition us into our next point, and that the position player market, it's still, you can still do stuff. There is still a handful of outfielders available and a one shortstop available that the Braves could drop some money on. The big position player signing that the Braves made was signing Brian De La Cruz. And I say big in, quotation marks because that's really the only notable position player signing that they made. Right-handed bat with a little bit of pop to pair with Jared Kelenic, which I would be okay with if Ronald Acuna Jr. was starting the year not on the injured list. So you're going to have 2 outfield spots to fill. And Jared Kelenic, frankly, I don't want to give up on him, but he's run out of chances. He has had several opportunities at the big league level to break out or show something, and the guy just strikes out way, way too much for him to be a everyday starter in the big leagues. So I can't trust him to go out there in left field every single day, especially with multiple holes in the lineup that wasn't very good last year. I say multiple holes in the lineup because it's going to be, can Sean Murphy get back to normalcy? Can Orlando Arcia not be dead weight? And can Jared Kelenic be decent? That's 3 pretty decent-sized question marks in a lineup. Jared Kelenic and Brian De La Cruz do not excite me. And plus, they're going to need another outfielder if they want to run with that platoon. So who's going to be in left field? Jurickson Profar is a very interesting player. His StatCast profile exploded last year. He was very, very good. His average exit velo bumped up 5 miles per hour. That does not happen. I would love Jurickson Profar a lot. I think he's a guy that you can definitely say, okay, we can give out a 3-year deal to this guy, maybe give him a little bit less money, or maybe even try a 2-year deal. I don't think you need to shell out tons of years or commitment for this guy. And maybe that's what he's looking for, and that's what shied away the Braves. Because, again, we don't know what type of contracts that Alex Anthopoulos has offered to any of these free agents. He could have been outbid, or maybe a player just doesn't want to go to the Braves for whatever reason. We could never know, or would never know. The most Alex Anthopoulos has tipped his hand about being interested in a player in an offseason was that they were a finalist for Aaron Nola last year, who is a guy that they wanted to shell out money for. So after going through detail about what the Braves haven't done in the rotation and what they're going to be looking at in 2025, and a little bit on the outfield, because I do think that shortstop, we are going to be rolling with Orlando Arcia come opening day. I think that's just the way it's going to be. I'm going to read some of your guys' comments off of the TikTok post that I made a couple days ago, catching the feelers of how the fan base feels right now. So, looking at some of the comments, there is a lot of angst, most because the Braves haven't made a move, and I get it. Alex and the Braves, for as long as Alex's tenure, have been a very quick moving team. A lot of the moves have happened in November at some point and or early December. Drew Smiley, Will Smith, Josh Donaldson, these moves happened. These big moves happened in November and or early December that really gave the Braves a chance to set up their roster throughout the rest of the winter and add on to it. Now, something that Jeff Passan has said on 680 The Fan, I believe he was on, but this is not a market for Alex Anthopoulos. This is a market that he absolutely despises, which is a big contributing factor as to him not moving a muscle. So mainly in the comments, I asked for player names. I asked for what the priorities are. I did get those, but mostly I got a lot of angst. I got a lot of do something. I got a lot of Alex is stupid. He's not doing his job right. To which the Alex Anthopoulos irritation at this point, yeah, I'm kind of with it. I get it. I am starting to feel that too a little bit. But I do think that he's still one of the better GMs in baseball, and he has done everything to try to be right by us, apart from some very glaring stuff, mainly this offseason, that I really just haven't understood. Mainly Travis d'Arnaud signing and some of the starting pitcher stuff, just not showing the willingness to go get it, even though you know you have the money to go get it. But a lot of it was pitching. The Braves need pitching. That is what I got, and it was outfielder second. I broke that down pretty well, but I'm going to do a little bit of a quick hit right now. So pitching as a number one priority, yes, I think the Braves do need starting pitching pretty fundamentally, and they need to find some sort of reliable starter because for the last 3 seasons, again, they've been knocked out of the playoffs because they haven't had reliable starting pitching. I think getting Spencer Strider back is going to be a big help, and depending on how Chris Sale does, I mean, that was such a fluke injury or something or the other at the end of last year, and I did not express this on the page, but I was pretty unhappy with how the front office managed that and communicated that to the fans. I don't know for what reason they kept it quiet and said that he was going to be okay and that they were stashing him, even though they knew he wasn't. I did not understand that in the slightest, but what's done is done. It's in the past, and I can't. You can moan about it all you want to. It's not going to change anything. But I do think that Spencer Strider and Chris Sale are pretty reliable. All of Chris Sale's injuries, most of them, have been pretty fluky throughout his career. And I think that back issue last year is just something that caught him at the wrong place at the wrong time, like the Braves have fallen into for the past 3 years. Spencer Schwellenbach, he's been injured before, but I'm not that worried about Spencer Schwellenbach getting injured. Neither am I about someone else they might bring in, because obviously health is going to be a big concern for them, for whoever they bring in. So maybe if they go get a Nick Pivetta, he's a guy who eats innings. The only pitcher in the rotation right now I'd be worried about is Renato Lopez, because he showed that he's just not very durable last year. Maybe that was because he hasn't thrown that much and his body was kind of fighting back against him a little bit. I don't know, just a pure assumption on my part. But that is really the only guy that I'd be kind of worried about. And again, Spencer Strider did not have Tommy John surgery. He had a UCL repair done, which I believe the initial reports were that it was a complete tear of the UCL or something of that nature, but it wasn't Tommy John surgery. It was something to do with his previous Tommy John surgery that just wasn't done correctly, or something or the other. But I'm not worried about Spencer. His only other injury in the big leagues has been an oblique injury in his first year as a starter. It's just something that might happen when your body hasn't thrown that much in your life, and that's exactly what happened with Spencer, I think, in 2022. And the outfield. I don't know what they're going to do about the outfield. There are a lot of guys that will probably be cut come spring training, and there's also a lot of outfielders still available because that's just how the outfield market works. There's more outfielders than anybody. I would not double blink or would not double take at them re-signing Ramon Laureano to bring back for just a couple months until Ronald Acuna gets his legs back under him. So the outfield for me is not the biggest position of concern. Something that's popped up just as I've kind of thought about it for the offseason is that we need the Braves need relievers too. The big hole that Joe Jimenez has left is pretty sizable. And relievers are so volatile that you can never be sure what's going to happen um, with them year by year. Obviously, the Braves had one of the best bullpens in baseball last year. So I think they're all pretty solid back there still. I think Aaron Bummer is going to get a bigger role this year after Brian Snitker realized on the second to last game of the year in the playoffs that Aaron Bummer is an actually good pitcher. And Dylan Lee is going to get more innings. Dylan was injured a little bit last year, but getting him back is massive. Now, the Braves usually are pretty active on the reliever market because Alex loves spending money on relievers. Uh, AJ Minter's still out there. Carlos Estevez has been brought up by John Heyman. And Tanner Scott was most recently brought up by a couple of people on on Twitter. So take that as you will. But Tanner Scott's still out there, and it's very notable that this is the last season of Raisel Iglesias under contract. Raisel's going to be 35 at the end of this year, and I don't even know if Alex wants to pay money for a 35-year-old reliever. That just doesn't sound like smart baseball to me. So spending big money on going to get a lockdown guy in the ninth kind of makes sense for me. I would love to see more swing guys in that bullpen, especially with how weird the rotation is right now and how many questions it has. Daysbel Hernandez might factor into the bullpen at some point, giving Grant Holmes more relief to go into the starting rotation. I think Grant Holmes is 100% making the big league roster next year, without a doubt. He provides way too much fluidity and way too much flex for him to not be on the roster. Guy can be bullpen, be a 2-inning guy for you. Guy can throw 5 innings for you. He's very good, very flexible, and he fits the role perfectly that the Braves need right now. So I do think that Grant Holmes is going to have a huge spot in that bullpen. But I think the Braves still need more high leverage guys. I mentioned Aaron Bummer and Dylan Lee, but for me personally, I don't like that style of pitching in the playoffs because we all saw how weird Aaron Bummer was last year. He's a guy who thrives on a lot of soft contact, and sometimes bloopers and bleeders find their way into the outfield for base hits in clutch moments. It just happens. So I'll take a strikeout over a ground out any day of the week. So going to get a big power arm makes a lot of sense, especially when your big power arms of Joe Jimenez and AJ Minter and Raisel Iglesias are not going to be with the team, possibly. AJ Minter could still sign and be fine. He had the hip thing last year. Would love to have AJ back. And Raisel Iglesias, you can never bank on a reliever having 2 good seasons in a row. You just can't do it because they're so volatile. So those would be my personal 1 and 2s. I know I asked you guys about it on TikTok about what your 1 and 2 would be, but for me, it's transformed into starting pitching and then not closing, but relief pitching. We need more pitching because pitching wins championships. The Braves are going to have an interesting next couple of weeks. I really want to see how much money they're going to spend because I am tired of getting this whole song and dance about how we're going to up payroll, we're going to do this, that, and the other, and the payroll never gets spent. And then Alex says, I like to save money for the trade deadline, and then he doesn't spend at the trade deadline. We've been doing this for 3-4 years, folks. But that is going to be the end of this video. Hopefully I can do some more consistent Brave stuff as we go along. If there's a big signing or a trade, I will be here to talk about it. Hopefully not in the next couple days while I'm editing this video, because then I have to re-record another video and then maybe not even put this video out. But if you made it to the end, thank you for watching and listening to my Braves rambling and ranting. I hope it was entertaining for you to listen to. Some interesting stuff is going to be coming up for me this semester. I am looking to graduate with my bachelor's at the end of the year, so I am going to be a little bit subdued with some stuff throughout the year. Watch out on my social media. I'm going to be announcing my new channel and my new social media of my new capstone show, which is Eric on the Call Presents Between the Lines, which is more of an analytical show focused on everything that happens in between the lines, which is the numbers, the pure on the field aspects. We're getting rid of all the sensationalism. We're getting rid of all the personal things out of the game. It is straight up sports talk. So if that's your type of deal, if that's something you want to watch, that is going to be up and going as soon as we get the dates finalized for that for my show on Capstone. So again, thank you guys for watching. If you made it into this one, drop a like in the like section and a comment in the comment section. Share with a Braves fan. Let them know that I can't say Eric's on the call. It's a different show. Dang it. Well, let them know that the Braves need to do something. And if they don't, then they'll still be okay because they're still a very good baseball team when the roster is all put together. Okay. All right. Have a good one.
Let's do that. Another hard hit ball. Making the dive is Spencer Muffaletto, and he comes up and fires, and he held the bag. What a job by Spencer.
What a play by the rookie. Holy smokes.
I mean, it's 6 foot 220. 0-1, crushed, left center field, back is Phillips, that ball is up against the wall, Phillips misplays it, one's gonna score, here comes the next one, and the Lions off the bat of Kyle Carlson lead 3-0. Wow, walloped.